unveiling of HirePro report on college hiring in India. Ladies and gentlemen, this definitely calls out a bigger and bigger applause as together we celebrate the grand unveiling. A lot more discussions are needs to be done. For all the 400 folks in the room and hundreds of people watching the live webcast, here's the HirePro report on college hiring in India.
A lot of conversations on AI. The good news is that everybody believes, is very optimistic. They don't believe that AI is going to kill their jobs. So if you look at the second row, they believe that there will be more jobs in the future as AI will open up possibilities. Since we did this analysis over various years of colleges, also over where the cities are placed, we found mostly colleges in metros. A lot of these students were wanting to do more entrepreneurship. Whereas non-metros, we found the focus was more around skilling themselves. Corporate looks at CGPA. Now, you can't really explain that. I think there's something like me who says that CGPA should not be important. And the fact that people have marked it as 10 seems to be a really bunch of naughty kids who said they're taking a survey. Because somewhere the students believe that CGPA should not be considered as part of it. But interestingly, there are other points where everybody converges. They believe that technical skills and research projects, so at least those are the ones that should be considered.
To discuss more on the HirePro report on new reality in college hiring. Well, to take us through the session, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to once again welcome on stage the Chief Operating Officer, yes, Ashwani. Welcome, a big round of applause. Leading the stage up to you.
Thanks to your son for keeping the crowd awake. And reminded of college days when just after lunch we used to have these lectures and we used to kind of get really boring. But trust me, there's enough buzz around. A lot of people have actually come up and asked what is our report, where things are. So today's conversation, we are kind of keep you definitely interested in some of the findings that we've had. So when you were planning for this event, we're just trying to figure out the format. One interesting thing we observed was we're going to bring in people from the industry, we're going to bring in people from the academia. But there is a Dulhan. The kid who's actually going to go through the process is nowhere in the picture. So there is a student. So, like all parents do, we are taking decisions, we should say this is what we should be doing, but who's going to hear them out? So, this entire capsule is largely focused on what the students largely talk about the same topic. Of course, we've also taken viewpoints from the industry and the academia as well. So the way we've done is that we've asked the same question to all three parties and then tried to figure out how the response has been. So we have the reports in front of you. We also will be publishing a QR code where you can download the soft copy of the report. But we'll go through some of the interesting, I would say, findings during that conversation. So that's what we'll try to cover. What we tried to do is we looked at broadly these categories in terms of industry readiness. This is a very, I would say, very cliche, always talked about topic. We talked about how people are looking at entrepreneurship, how AI is going to create an impact, and also about internships, the overall recruitment process, and how do we see people collaborating, both the academia and the industry, what students have to say, what the academia has to say, what the industry has to say. So that's how we try to look at it from a category standpoint. So the first interesting thing was we obviously asked all of them, the students saying how industry do you think you are? The same question was asked to the academia and to the industry. Now the most interesting point is that a very large spectrum of the response from industry was that students are not ready. Whereas interestingly, the academia believe that they are ready to start delivering on the job. Of course, some of them said training is required and so on and so forth. So the interesting point to note is that almost 41% of the corporate believe that they are only 20% ready. And on the other hand, if you look at, as you see these numbers going by, more and more the corporate believe that there is definitely a gap between what is really happening in terms of what they have been taught versus what is really there. So we try to actually also do some conversations with people to understand what are the qualitatively things that are looking at. So what really came out largely from the industry to kind of clarify this was to say that people bring in the skills. For example, if you take an example of a software developer, a lot of them know how to write code. Of course, some of them are still learning. But then to create production-ready code, work in an environment, understanding the domain, it takes time. So obviously, you need a time of maybe 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. It's not really that just having the skill of coding is really going to help people in terms of getting things sorted. So that was one really key finding that was there. Then we spoke about entrepreneurship. We asked students, saying that assuming in the next 3 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, do you think you would want to start out something on your own? And a good number of them actually responded. 15% said immediately after graduating. Good, 33% said we currently have no plans as of now. But roughly around, I would say 50% said that they are looking at it some time frame in the next 2 to 3 years or the next 5 to 10 years. And a large population, so which means almost 67% of them believe that they would either start something on their own or at least be part of the founding team to kind of get started off. So which is a very interesting thing. Also what we observed was, since we did this analysis over various tiers of colleges, also about where the cities are placed, we found mostly colleges in metros. A lot of these students were wanting to do more entrepreneurship. Whereas non-metros, we found the focus was more around skilling themselves, because also possibly the way they see the world from their side, where they are seeing more and more of exposure, they are seeing a lot of interaction with the industry. So colleges in Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, Chennai, we found them students wanting to do more entrepreneurship rather than trying to just get into the regular job. Now the interesting point was we also asked colleges how are we really supporting these students to go through this entrepreneurship journey. Around 87% of the colleges said that they have some kind of a in-house thing. Today we have most of these colleges having an incubation center. They are doing various programs. Some of them even run entrepreneurship courses as part of the curriculum to help these students. However, colleges also said they prefer their students to go for a regular job rather than entrepreneurship. So, here's the conservative parent probably coming into play, saying that, yeah, I want my kid to be cool, but let's not take so much of risks. Let's take that kind of a time frame. And the most interesting part was when we asked people from the industry to say that if you find a talent who's probably wanting to go entrepreneurial, would you want to get them absorbed in a job right away? And the response was that people are primarily looking at people who are interested in a job rather than wanting to go entrepreneurial. So I think that's a little bit of a dichotomy where you would want the entrepreneurial spirit, but not really an entrepreneur. So I think it's over a period of time is where we see this equilibrium setting down. So some of the other topics that get covered will also kind of corroborate with this finding, where today a good number of students coming out from colleges who have the exposure, and also some of them who have that kind of an economic stability would want to try out something in their first 2-3 years of. I think that also is a function of their alumni who started off and how people kind of build that overall culture. We, of course, had a lot of conversations on AI. The good news is that everybody believes, is very optimistic. They don't believe that AI is going to kill their jobs. So, if you look at the second row, they believe that there will be more jobs in the future as AI will open up new possibilities. Almost 35% of the students, 53% of the academia, 55% of the corporate, they all believe that with AI coming in, it's actually going to open up more jobs rather than people getting worried that there will not be people will lose jobs and so on and so forth. We also asked, how do you think AI is kind of how the knowledge coming into some of these colleges? 69% of the respondents replied that there is some activity happening in the college for them from an AI standpoint. Around 31% believe that there are not much of initiatives that are happening. And if you kind of drill down to see what these initiatives are, as you would know, today more and more colleges have a specialized branch in AI and data sciences, apart from the fact that we have computer science, electronics, electrical, and so on. And now if you actually open up the curriculum of a good number of colleges, you will find within the third or the fourth semester, a course on AI data sciences is available in most of these colleges. Because I think now people have believed that 15 years back, software programming was taught like basic sciences. And today, AI and data sciences is also being considered like one of the core skill areas that people should learn because the application is across, be it whether you are studying electronics, metallurgy, chemical, mechanical, civil, and so on. So that's a very, very interesting part. Of course, a lot of these students are also relying on guest lectures and industry talks to educate themselves, and obviously some of them are going through some of these finishing schools, which are also helping them from all these things. But one interesting point, because we also had some qualitative inputs from some of these students, they believe that they're also relying on some of these finishing schools where they are going out on their own to educate themselves rather than just relying on the academia to do it because they are part of a certain curriculum and they believe that they can only cover that much, at least with the realm of AI. So then there was a conversation around internships because if you relate to the first part where we spoke about industry-ready candidates, obviously as long as people are actually getting hands-on experience, it will be very difficult for them to have the combination of both the skill and the domain and all of the other elements that go into a job. So today, if you look at in most of the engineering colleges, the internship is around 8 weeks. For some of the colleges and some of the master's program, you have an internship duration of roughly around 6 months. Now, this was a little bit of a hypothetical question to the students saying that, okay, what if we make an internship for 12 months? Around say more than 6 months, 4 to 6 months, 2 to 3 months. It looks like largely people believe that the internship duration should definitely be more than the current 8 weeks and probably going up to around 6 months. So 4 to 6 months seems to be a very ideal time frame for both, I would say, the students also to learn something and also for the industry to really plan something because first 4 weeks you're just kind of, getting into the basics rather than really being able to execute something which is a real takeaway for any of these students. I believe today there are some curriculums that are getting planned where the students can actually use their last year, 1 semester totally in internships, and I think it seems to be quite welcome, and all three stakeholders believe that that's a very welcome change that was there. And that's exactly what Ashwin was also alluding to in the morning, saying that we need some standards in this process because some colleges or curriculum allows only 2 months, some allows 6 months, and then there is thing of, okay, why can't everybody kind of standardize? So that for the industry also it becomes very clear that I don't have to now go to, this always happens with us, go to HirePro and say, okay, can you tell me which colleges offer 2 months, which colleges offer 6 months, 8 months, and so on and so forth. It's a very standard thing as to when people are available, planning becomes much more easier and better. Another interesting question we asked, even though this doesn't affect these students, as per the new education policy, it allows for your break in your academic career now. Probably if you study for a year, you can go out and go out with a certificate. 2 years, you go to the diploma. 3 years, you go to the degree. 4 years, you go to the honors degree. So we said, okay, there is a 1 year gap in between. Are students ready to take it? Because we can go try out something, start your own company or get experience and come back. Students seem to look out for the welcome day. 59% of them said that yes, they are very much interested to go ahead and do this. But it looks like the corporate still does not have this framework of how do I get somebody work with me for 1 year and the person goes out. So only around 16% of the corporate said that they are interested. And in academia also was kind of maybe, it's always a safe option to market the service. So but 30% of them only said yes. Because obviously there needs to be adjustment made in the curriculum as well, because batches are defined, who comes in, who goes out. Of course, this was more forward looking to figure out where things would go, but then at least students believe that they could actually take a break for a year, try out something, and come back, which is very encouraging from our overall student community. Now you know that hiring in the last, I would say at least 5 years, there's a paradigm shift in terms of how hiring has happened. With COVID, all of them started off remote. I mean, there was no choice. Now we found, in fact, in the reports, we have covered other parameters as to how organizations are rating it. People are finding it obviously more convenient to do this hiring remote. I mean, it's cost effective. And but then, what are the trade-offs was the whole thing, and overall comfort and acceptability of virtual hiring or remote hiring. People believe that a mix of physical and virtual hiring is something that is very, very beneficial for all parties. And of course, some of the corporates also believe that they would want to do the hiring physical. Now, if you kind of go a little deeper when you talk to people to interpret what they mean. Now, for the students, they believe that in the past, if an hiring event would happen, there will be at least 3-4 managers who will be coming in, they would have a conversation, they will figure out more about their job. There will be a lot of informal conversations where the hiring managers would try to understand from the college what's happening, what's the culture, what is the general batch size, all of that. And as part of this entire conversation, being able to transmit what really is the brand of the organization, what it really used to stand for. Now, when you're doing it purely virtual, I mean, it's like a cookie cutter approach. You start off 10 to 11:30 exam, 12 o'clock results announced, 1 to 4 interviews happening virtually. So, what people are saying is, if you're doing the assessments and interviews virtually, that might still make sense. But we at least need some kind of a conversation that needs to happen before or during the hiring process where there's some kind of a connect. So, because you'll also see in subsequent slides, organizations are very conscious about the fact that the brand needs to be represented well. And with this entire faceless hiring approach, all you end up is a Zoom call or a Google Meet where you're just doing the interview. There's not much of conversation that happens beyond. You don't really get a feel of the campus that you get to see, the vibrancy of the campus. You get to know so many things about how's the intake happening, how's the placement that has happened in the last few years. You get to see the actual physical location, the facilities and so on, all that being missing. And also, as an interviewer, I mean, if I've got a 1 hour interview, I'll probably just focus on the conversation and really move on. It becomes very difficult to kind of keep talking about the brand to everyone. So there needs to be the right mix of branding and other activities in the campus plus the assessments and interviews. But what people believe that taking an assessment remotely, as long as it is managed well, if they can manage all the compliance, impersonation, and proctoring is done well, I think all parties find it very convenient. Interviews, actually students say that doing a virtual interview for them is much easier, because in the past they would come into a room, wait for from morning 9 to 5, but here now these are all planned, they get to know what is their schedule, they need to come online, and today's, as you know, Professor Saragopal was also saying that they are very, very clear about how they want it and what they really want. So even in the job interviews, they want to define how the job interview really needs to be done. We also looked at what should be the parameters that should be considered in shortlisting the students. Now, we kind of, if you look at the corporate line, so we kind of sorted it so that you know all the priorities of the corporate are. Corporate looks at CGPA. Now, if you come to the extreme left, I think there's somebody like me who says that CGPA should not be important. probably because you didn't get a good CGPA, so you just say, no, that should not be considered as really a thing. And the fact that people have marked it as 10 it seems to be a really bunch of naughty kids who said you're getting the survey. Because somewhere the students believe that CGPA should not really be considered as part of things. But interestingly, there are other points where everybody converges. They believe that technical skills and research projects, so at least those are the ones that should be considered. Which probably is a fact because when you talk to some of these students, they say that I have primarily focused on picking up internships in my areas of what really I would want to do. An engineering student probably belonging to another core branches like say chemical and metallurgy. They have probably worked in 3-4 consulting organizations or a fintech company primarily to gain experience. And hence they say that don't look at my CGPA, what I've done in that course, but look at what I've really learned as part of these projects as compared to this. Corporate seems to put more weight around attitude and behavior. Probably the students need to understand that. They mark it a little lower, and I think otherwise, if you look at internship experience is one more area. So where students seem to give a lot of focus, corporate does not seem to use too much of weightage on internship, and the reason is obvious because they understand that this internship is just around 4 to 6 weeks, so we really know how much the kid have learned. So I'll probably focus on academic performance, technical skills, research work because these are more long term, and probably the attitude and behavior. That's why these 4 come up in top of the category. We also looked at what are the key hiring attributes corporates seek. Now here we diagrammed it based on the student's response. A student believes that, sorry, on the corporate side. So interestingly, if you look at all of them agree that domain expertise is important. Students somewhere believe that communication skills is not that important. They believe that organizations might be looking at their overall presentability and other attributes like cognitive reasoning, quantitative skills, and so on. But today, given the kind of job that exists, where people have to play multiple roles as part of their job, communication is one key skill that is really required. It's not just about any language, but being able to really think, explain and do all of those abilities, and that's one of the reasons that corporates seem to kind of lay emphasis on communication skills, whereas the candidates are not. Now, the interesting thing is that corporates do look at behavioral attributes, actually more than cognitive and quantitative skills, because I think there always is argument saying whether it is 50-50 attitude and aptitude or is it 70-30, but I think attitude plays a very, very important role as part of this. In fact, we intend to publish this report to all the students community as well, because I think it's very important for them also to understand what really is coming by. We asked all of them, what do you think organizations look for when they are shortlisting colleges? And the same question was asked to all. This is tagline as for students. Obviously, students look at compensation as their first priority, no surprises. They look at brand, and they don't seem to really focus too much on work culture and other attributes because probably there's a little short-term view to this entire thing. But interestingly, organizations believe that probably students look at their brand, and that's why there's a lot of focus that organizations actually put, and they continue to put, say that I want to be perceived as a much better, cooler brand in the campus. Now, you could relate it to the part why organizations are saying that we want more and more physical activities, because that's how this criteria of branding yourself gets met in the colleges. And but otherwise, at least the first 2 points in terms of compensation and brand that really is to look at. Academia seems to be little interested in international offers. Obviously, it builds much more credibility to the college to say that we have so many of these international placements, apart from the fact that they are there. But I think students probably believe in Modi's making India to say, okay, probably will stay back in India and try out some of these things. International job offers, at least in some of these areas, have seemed to have lost their sheen because they've seen how acceptable the India community is over a period of time from visa and other standpoint. We also looked at what are the non-placement collaborations that are preferred by students, and here we found that students are preferring. So one of the interesting things that most of the students said was that we have a lot of these lectures and talk shows that come up, but we hear mostly what the companies come and talk about what they are doing, but that's not what we want. You please come and tell us what we should be doing, and please support us in terms of enhancing our skill. So you spend time with us, you help us do some workshops, you do give us more projects, you do research, you mentor us, and then we can look at other things like guest lectures and other things. So obviously, they look at a little more long-term intervention and mentorship rather than a very short, quick fix of guest lectures that will help them to brand. And interestingly, what used to be like the number one thing of sponsorship of campus events, I think everybody agrees that that's not really is of great value to this. We also asked academia and corporates, which are the areas that you see can collaborate. I think the focus, at least from the academia side, looks like more long term. They're talking about having some COEs where they can build things together, faculty development, and some of these activities, whereas corporate believes that guest lectures is something that really helps. But I think we got about it both from the students as well as from the corporate that just a plain simple guest lecture will not really help because it's just a one-time activity. And honestly, the students want to know more about themselves rather than just what the organization is going to talk about some of these things. Apart from the fact that curriculum co-creation and other things will happen. So I think with that we come to an end of this. So there are these surveys reports, they are on the tables. People sitting on chairs. We also have a QR code where you can download this. We'll also send out a link to all the participants of today that they can download this report and go through this. There are some more parameters which we will cover today, which goes into details of this. So thanks for your time.